as Dave said, my name is Ryan, and I'm going to be talking to you about using the Design Tiler for hopefully some cool AEC workflows. Okay, quick agenda. I'll give you a brief overview on the Design Tiler for those who haven't used it. We'll spend most of our time talking about some workflows using the Design Tiler, and then, if we've got some time, Q&A, but we've already lost 2 minutes. Okay, so the Design Tiler, effectively what it does is it helps you convert your AEC design data, think IFC, Revit, CAD, that sort of data, into 3D tiles. Why do we want to use 3D tiles for that data? It helps us efficiently and quickly stream, which is what's usually complex data, into our applications, whether it's in the web with Cesium.js, or Unreal, Unity, Omniverse, or anything else that supports 3D tiles. And that helps give us greater performance. It can also mean less manual effort. Often a lot of optimization is needed for those sorts of models when you're trying to bring them into 3D applications. And of course, 3D tiles means it's interoperable. So you're not just converting it into one format that you can't use anywhere else. A quick video of our Revit plugin. Now this is uploading the design from Revit directly to Cesium Ion. It's then going to tile using the Design Tiler and turn into 3D tiles. So there's the design there. And of course, once it's in Cesium Ion, it's very easy to stream into something like Cesium.js with a couple of lines of code. Fill in the hole. Here's our design. Now, the cool thing about the Design Tiler is it's not just about the geometry and the materials that you get from the design. It also includes all of the metadata that's available inside of Revit or IFC or whatever the source format is. So that's all accessible to you regardless of whether it's Cesium.js, Unreal, Omniverse, Unity, through our Cesium runtimes. And it's not just about getting that information and displaying it on the screen. You can also use that metadata to filter. So here we're hiding geometry based on the IFC class, or maybe we style it. We highlight pipes that are longer than a certain length. Okay, so that's the Design Tiler, basic overview. Let's jump into some workflows. So architectural visualization is one that I want to talk about and how the Design Tiler can help. I'll call it ArcViz because it's a lot of words. Okay, so ArcViz models, they look great. And they usually look great because they've been taken from the design package into an application like 3D Studio Max, Blender, Twinmotion, whatever it might be. And they've had a visual uplift by artists, UV mapping, optimizing geometry, materials, textures, all that sort of stuff. It gives us a great looking model, but the problem is we lose metadata through that workflow. So that gives us, limits the experiences we can build with that model. We can create something that looks great, but if a stakeholder wants to say, can you tell me some information about this light fitting on this window, it's kind of gone. So how can we use the Design Tiler to help in that space? Let's go to ArcViz model on the left, great visuals, no metadata. We could export the design into 3D tiles, accurate geometry, complex metadata, kind of combine the two in our application. And that's what this demo here is showing. So I've got our ArcViz model, but what I've actually got is a hidden 3D tiles layer in my project, which is what I'm clicking on. And that allows me to get the metadata from the 3D tiles layer directly from Revit, whilst I'm still showing the user the ArcViz model that's come from the 3D artist. So it's kind of a seamless experience. It gives us the great visuals, but it also gives us the information. And the great thing is there's not really any disruption to existing ArcViz workflows. Let's export the design with a couple of clicks from Revit, stream it in as 3D tiles. Your application doesn't get bigger, you're not storing extra geometry in there. It's a very quick workflow to do. Something else that this similar concept can help with is validation of an ArcViz model. So sometimes these things get referred to as artistic impressions. There can be some doubt over the accuracy once it's gone through a 3D modeling pipeline to provide that visual uplift. Being able to swap quickly between the raw design, streamed via 3D tiles, and the ArcViz model gives you that validation layer that you could turn on and off when you're having conversations with the stakeholder, or even just use to review your ArcViz model as it's being produced. And then another extension to that workflow would be using 3D tiles to support design options. So anyone who's worked on these sorts of projects know that designs can change daily, weekly, very quickly. And trying to keep your ArcViz model up to date with the latest designs can either be expensive or time consuming. And what that ends up meaning is your project can be out of date, and therefore it's less useful. So being able to quickly stream in new design options with 3D tiles, whilst they haven't had the visual uplift, means that your application or your model is still current. Ultimately, it's more useful for your project. Okay, so let's extend that a little. I want to talk about querying metadata, because we've seen how we can click on a surface and get it. How do we ask a question like this? I've got a complex model, and I know that there's a light somewhere in there with a particular ID or something like that, but how do I even find the thing? So this is Dennis from the Unreal Asset Store. He could click on each individual light and maybe stumble across that ID. There's hundreds or thousands of lights, so that's not really feasible. So we want something that's going to let us provide a more database-like query engine. And 3D tiles, whilst it's great for streaming and optimized rendering, that light might not even be loaded in the tile set depending on where I'm looking. So our application just doesn't even know it exists. So I want to talk quickly about an iTwin. This is what I'm going to use to help solve that problem. So an iTwin is essentially a digital representation of physical infrastructure assets. It's a platform with a ton of capabilities and APIs to help support the entire asset lifecycle. What I'm going to use it for is essentially a back-end database. Now, hybrid approach. Let's say I've got an IFC, which is my building design. I'm going to upload it to Cesium Ion, use the design tiler to generate 3D tiles, and then use Cesium.js to render it. Pretty standard workflow. I'm also going to take my IFC, upload it to the iTwin platform. It'll get converted into what's called an iModel. And from there, I could use something like iTwin.js to perform those back-end queries. And because my 3D tiles still has metadata inside it identifying the individual objects, the results from those queries can be linked to the content that I have in Cesium.js, so I can create some interesting workflows. Okay, so here's a JS app or demo that I've built, and I'm answering Dennis's question. I'm pasting in that ID. A query is going to the iModel. It's returning information about that light, and then I'm using that to zoom directly to that location. If you notice, that light hasn't even been loaded when I first do the query. So that now starts to provide a much more powerful platform for me to create some really interesting experiences with that back-end data. And extending that, let's find all the objects that have solar in the name. You see I get a full list regardless of whether those objects are loaded or not in the 3D tiles, and enough information for me to zoom to those objects and then do whatever I need to do with them. How I'm doing it? There's something in iTwin.js called an instance query. Basically, it's just a SQL query. I'm telling it to get me all the physical elements in my model where the name matches whatever my query parameter is. And it's returning JSON, as you'd expect, a whole bunch of metadata for each of those objects, but importantly on the right, placement information. So the iModel can tell me where in my design my light or my chair or my table exists. It also gives me a bounding box and orientation, which gives me enough information to be able to fly to that object and find it in the 3D tiles, whether it's loaded or not. And then extending that, we can start to do more complex queries. Tell me the total volume of floor structures, or maybe tell me the total volume of floors that are concrete on the second level. So you can start to create some really interesting use cases that aren't just about looking, but about interrogating the design as well. Okay, so let's move on to big projects. For anyone who's worked on linear infrastructure like roads, this is still a pretty small project. The problem we have is roads exist in a flat world, effectively, in our design packages. And when we want to visualize them with something like Cesium World Terrain, it might look okay from up here, but we'll find that Cesium World Terrain is curved, right? Our design's flat, so things are going to mismatch. So here's Dennis again for scale, and everything looks pretty good at this end of the project. But if we fly up to the other end, we are now 5 Dennises out vertically and horizontally. Right? So it's only an 11K project. Imagine a 50K project or a 100-kilometer project or 1,000-kilometre project. So we need a solution for that, for these sorts of projects, if we're going to visualize them alongside Cesium World Terrain, Google Photorealistic 3D Tiles, that sort of thing. Fortunately, the Design Tiler, if you're uploading via that process, has the ability to perform geographic transforms. So I can pass in some information that tells the Design Tiler what coordinate system my flat design is in, and as it turns it into 3D tiles, it will convert it into the same coordinate reference system that Cesium World Terrain or Google Photorealistic Tiles use. Effectively, it curves it to the Earth and positions it accurately. So, same design. The green has been reprojected to Earth-centered Earth fixed, which is the CRS that we use in Cesium for 3D. You can see again, at this end, everything lines up pretty well. We'll fly 2.5 kilometres down. We can start to see that even just on that small distance, vertically, we're not too bad, maybe 0.5 metre out, but horizontally, it's actually already skewed quite a bit. So if we're trying to produce an accurate application for people, we've already got some pretty big disconnects at just a small distance. Then if we keep moving along, we'll see that progressively the gap gets bigger and bigger. The green is remaining flat, well, not flat, it's remaining stuck to the Earth, it's curved, but we can see the difference is just getting bigger and bigger. Fly a little further. Again, the green is nicely on the ground. We're about 3 dennises out, horizontally and vertically. And then if we go all the way to the end, we can see the green is still clipping with the terrain, so it's positioned quite accurately. So really important and useful thing to consider on those sorts of large projects. And even as we saw at 2 kilometres, you could just be working on a precinct. That sort of difference can make a huge impact. So at least be aware of it and work out when you may need to do geographic transforms or not. Okay. So wrapping up, we looked at how we can support ArcViz projects with 3D tiles, metadata, using it for validation and quick design options. Combining it with a backend like iTwin to perform queries on our data, and then using the Design Tiler to perform those geographic transforms. So hopefully some of those workflows have been useful, maybe spark some ideas, and we would love to hear about other workflows that you'd like to see, or other challenges you're facing, particularly in the AEC space with data. So jump on our community forum or reach out directly, and happy to take any questions.